and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I am Kellie de Leon with Treasure Data, and we are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDOIQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Danielle Crop, Chief Data Officer at Albertsons Companies. Welcome, Danielle.
It's good to be here, Kellie. Thanks for having me.
So let's jump right into it. You have an interesting role, and everybody is looking for how do we figure out how to get value from data and analytics and all of those kinds of things. So I'd love to just start with an area of passion for you. I know that's kind of value delivery through enterprise data and through analytics. Can you just kind of lay out what does that mean to you?
It means that when we're thinking about the things we're going to work on as a team, that we first and foremost look at whether or not it's going to provide value to the customer or to the shareholder. And that we make it very clear to ourselves as data scientists, data managers, data products folks, that those things we're working on have value to those stakeholder groups. And that we then look at them from, a value-based perspective, rank ordering them, and we prioritize accordingly based on what is going to get us the most customer and shareholder value.
Absolutely. And so as I would imagine that that's a collaborative effort across the business, but what is your role in maximizing that value, both in driving the conversation and the role you play after those objectives have been set?
I'd like to talk about a little bit the objective setting, because I know that's something that is a challenge for many CDOs, right? So I think of the CDO role as being the data product manager for the entire organization. And what that means is that you have to go out and do stakeholder interviews, customer interviews, just like you would for any product management. And have those interviews, get that input and feedback so you can make sure that you're working on the right priorities for your customers and for your shareholders. And then once you have that, you have those ongoing conversations, just like you would with any other product with your customers, to understand what they need. So it's just an ongoing discipline of understanding what the organization needs from its data, and prioritizing it accordingly.
Love that. Certainly digital transformation and where an organization is at is going to influence the data that they have and the value that they can, be extracting from that data. And different industries are definitely at different places in the maturity curve or in kind of the evolution of digital transformation. I'm wondering if you can just talk about sort of the grocery industry as a whole and what digital transformation it looks like within that industry, and where are they at in this process of, digital transformation, and then obviously being able to extract data value from all of the things that come from that.
I think that based on the nature of the grocery business, we're a little, behind other industries on digital transformation. The good news is that, one of the upsides of COVID was that it accelerated the digital transformation within, these traditional brick and mortar industries dramatically. And we were not, of course, the only ones that had that. So there's been a huge focus in the last few years on investing and growing in digital, which of course has benefits to the data world, because digital and data are, partners in crime, right? you don't get one without the other. And so we've, there's been a lot of focus on bringing us into the new paradigm of digital and data. And I think there's a real advantage to being a late mover here. Right? I mean, I previously worked at a company that was a very early mover in this space, American Express, which meant that there was a lot of legacy to overcome. That doesn't mean that Albertsons didn't have legacy, but it had less legacy to overcome in order to be able to move to the cloud and be a cloud native digital organization, for example. And so, when I came here, they were already far down that journey. of being on a really cohesive cloud strategy. And so that's been it. We've been, both from a digital and a data perspective, a huge beneficiary of that work that the organization has done, and being able to take that foundation and grow from it.
That's great. And it's it's definitely, I hadn't thought about it that way, but there are some benefits to being, a late mover, and in different ways you can, so some other people have made some of the expensive mistakes that you can learn from too, as well, right? As you were talking about maybe the grocery industry, just by the nature of what it is, maybe kind of being, a little bit at a different place in the overall process, are there other industries that you look to for inspiration regarding how data and analytics are being used to transform business or to transform, customer experience and really drive that value? Are there kind of inspiration points that you try to pull in?
Yes, but I also think that I look at with really open eyes at all of them. There's pros and cons to the different industries in the way that they have approached data. Right. So I'd say, everyone, references like the big tech organizations when it comes to digital and data, and for good reason, right? I think one of the challenges that those organizations are now facing is that because they have been less regulated, they will become probably more regulated from a privacy perspective, et cetera, as we move forward. Data ecosystem isn't well understood. Right. They've created it, and it's like everywhere, and it's like air for them. And it's very important, but they haven't had to govern it. They haven't had to manage it. Right. And I think that as they become more regulated, that is going to become more of a focus. Where I came from before joining retail, I came from a very regulated industry in financial services. Mm-hmm. So I kind of see both paradigms there. Right. In financial services, the attention by the Federal Reserve, the OCC, et cetera, on the quality of the data cataloging, et cetera, is very high. So even though your data is huge and everywhere, you have to know what it is. And I think that that's one of the things that the tech organizations have actually taken for granted, is that they don't need to necessarily know what their data is, right? They can make assumptions about what their data is. And move forward in a very agile and fast manner. But I think that the days of kind of that Wild West are coming to a close in the next decade. That's my prediction. And so I can see both sides, and I think being somewhere in the middle is the right place to be, which is where I'm a huge fan. I've said this in other interviews. Know thy data is the first law of statistical inference. And so I am a big fan of, you have to know your data in order to make good decisions around it. And just kind of having it out there and then making assumptions about what it is not sufficient.
Yeah, that's great insight. I'm thinking about, something that you said just a little bit ago, digital and data going hand in hand, and the last handful of years have been an acceleration of digital transformation across almost every industry, almost by necessity. Probably not even, I could remove the word almost. But I wonder if you can just talk a little bit about, when you're thinking about the value that a company can get from data and analytics, a value like the Albertsons Companies, how does digital transformation and kind of where you're at on that digital transformation landscape, how does that impact your ability to extract value from the data and analytics that you are trying to put in place?
It influences it dramatically, right? If you think about the type of context that Albertsons is in, which is the kind of ability to sell groceries, right, and to customers through multiple channels, right, and through multiple delivery ways of delivering that. It makes a huge difference to the experience, both in store and online. And the idea is to be able to blur those things as much as possible to where it doesn't really matter where the customer is. They have their phone in hand and it doesn't really matter. Like, so if you're in the store, we can give you a customized experience for when you're in the store with your phone in hand. Because if you're anything like me, you walk through the store with your phone in hand with the grocery list, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like being able to, make that phone a tool for you to do your, customer business, regardless of where you are, is the goal. And digital transformation is essential to that. If you don't have the right infrastructure, the right platforms, the right, frameworks, et cetera, in place, it makes it very difficult to give that truly everywhere experience to your customers. Right. And there's lots of course, underneath the hood challenges there with is, like, what's the Wi-Fi like? Right. What service are they on? Like there's so many combination of things that have to work in order to create that beautiful, seamless experience. And so we're working very closely with our technologies organization to make sure in our shopper experience organization, to make sure that we can, we can power underneath with the data engine, any experience that any customer wants, wherever they might be.
Well, thank you so much for this conversation. I have so enjoyed talking with you and hearing your perspective and all of the exciting things that you're doing to drive customer experience and obviously, influence the value that customers get out of their interactions with Albertsons Companies, but also how you're driving that data value and business value within the organization as well. It's been really interesting to gain your perspective. So thank you, Danielle, for joining me.
You're welcome, Kelly. It's been a pleasure.
Please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews.